Hnefatafl, a game that dates all the way back to the year 400. It became especially popular in Scandinavia during the Viking era and was played for centuries until chess took over as the more popular game sometime after the first millennium. Over the years, various rule sets have come and gone. The most widely published and popular today is the Hnefatafl rule set. However, it has some shortcomings. Because of this, I'll be teaching you a version simply known as Old Hnefatafl, as it's my personal favorite out of the two. First, decide which player will be the attacker and which will be the defender. The defending player gets the set of pieces that includes the king, while the other set goes to the attacker. Now place the attacking pieces on the marked squares around the edges of the board, and the defending pieces on the marked squares near the center. The defender's king starts on the king square that's directly in the middle of the board, known as the throne. You can tell the king apart from the others as he's slightly bigger and has a strap on his helmet. You'll notice that the 4 corner squares of the board are king squares as well. The goal of the game for the defender is to get their king to one of these 4 squares. If they succeed, they win the game. The attackers, on the other hand, are trying to capture the king before he is able to escape. All of the other symbols that the pieces are now sitting on, minus the throne, are only relevant to the setup portion of the game. All pieces, including the king, move like a rook in chess. That is, they can move any number of spaces in a straight line, vertically or horizontally, until they decide to stop, hit another piece, or the edge of the board. Pieces may not jump over or land on top of any other piece. No piece except the king can occupy any of the 5 king squares on the board. Pieces may travel over the central king square, but they may not land on it. The king himself, however, is allowed to return to the middle throne square if he so desires. With the goal of the game and the movement rules in mind, let's go through the first few turns until we're presented with an opportunity to capture. The attacker always goes first. Both players capture their opponent's pieces by sandwiching, that is, by trapping a single piece between 2 of their own. Let's take a closer look. If you position your pieces on either side of your opponent's piece in the same row or column, that piece is captured and removed from the board. Sandwiching multiple pieces at once does not result in any capture. A piece is only captured if the sandwich is completed by the aggressor, meaning you can safely land between 2 opponent pieces without being captured. You may also capture multiple pieces in a single move if the opportunity presents itself, at which point you would remove all capture pieces from the board immediately. An unoccupied king square, including the central throne, can act as one side of a sandwich when capturing pieces. Back to our game. The king may participate in capturing in the same manner as any other piece. Capturing the king, however, is a bit more of a challenge for the attacker. He must be surrounded on all occupiable sides. This can be achieved by surrounding him with 4 attackers, surrounding him with 3 attackers combined with the throne, or the edge of the board, or surrounding him with 2 attackers combined with a corner king square and the edge of the board. Note that the king must be singled out in order to be captured. He is safe if next to 1 or more of his defenders. The attacker can also win by completely surrounding the king and any remaining defenders in an unbroken ring, preventing the king's escape. This rule is a key difference between Hnefatafl and Old Hnefatafl that helps lead to fewer draws. If the attacking player manages to capture the king before he reaches a corner square, they win the game. If either player ever becomes stuck and can't move any of their pieces, they lose the game. If multiple repetition moves occur, the defender loses the game. And again, the defender wins by having their king reach one of the corner king squares. Now let's take a look at the popular Copenhagen variant introduced in 2012 to address some of the shortcomings of the Hnefatafl rule set. It is now the most widely played version in tournaments today. The goal of the game remains the same as old Hnefatafl, but with a few rule changes. The biggest change being the new method of capture called the shield wall. A shield wall capture allows either player to capture a row of opponent pieces along the edge of the board by completely trapping them. In order to do so, you must sandwich the row on both ends and ensure that it's your pieces that are blocking them all in. This will result in the entire row being captured. For the capture to be valid, the aggressor's piece must be the one to close the sandwich as the final move leading up to the capture. This means you may safely land on the final square of a sandwich if both ends are already closed, as your opponent would not be able to close the sandwich on your pieces as the aggressor on their next turn. If the aggressor completes the shield wall using a blocker, it is invalid and does not result in any capture. A player's pieces are safe from being captured by a shield wall if they are being blocked in by their own pieces. Though rare, a player may sometimes perform 2 shield wall captures in a single move, as seen here. The corner king squares can assist in a shield wall capture by acting as one end of the sandwich, just like they can with any other capture. The king may participate in a shield wall capture as well, though he himself may not be captured in this way. If he is part of a row of pieces being captured by a shield wall, he would remain on the board while the rest of the pieces would be captured and removed as usual. As the attacking player, you must be careful not to inadvertently clear a path for the king by performing a shield wall capture. This leads us to another change. The king can no longer be captured on the edge of the board. The attackers can still trap the king on the edge of the board if they choose, however, it will no longer result in capturing him. And lastly, the defenders now have an additional way to win. That is by creating an unbroken exit fort around the king along the edge of the board. The king must be on a square touching the edge of the board and have at least one square to move to within the fort. If the defenders completely surround him and there is no room to move, it does not result in a win. All other rules remain the same. And that's it. You're now ready to play Hnefatafl. By the way, there are plenty of other variations to be found online, so don't let this video be the end of your search. Perhaps I'll cover some in a future video. Until next time, thanks for watching.